it is absolutely a party for LAFC because they get themselves into the Club World Cup. There's a lot of promise and prospect for them because I think that they're poised to get out of this group, which has the likes of Chelsea, Flamenco, and ES Tunis.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that, Jalil. I like where your head's at. Well, here's a look at how Denny Bouanga has fared with LAFC. His 80 goals have him second on the club's all-time goal-scoring list, and on Saturday, of course, he scored one of the most important goals in club history. All right, how about this tweet that LAFC put out? There's Bouanga and the other French internationals on LAFC: Olivier Giroud, Hugo Lloris, Maxime Chenot. Pardon our French. Very good.
Allez, that's all I'm saying.
I like that.
Look, Jill, you touched on it. Denny Bouanga, he's no stranger to coming up clutch in big moments. But Master, that goal was a thing of beauty, even if he does get the benefit of the nutmeg there.
No, he does. He took the, he was assertive. You know, Giroud's there. It looked like Giroud was going to turn around and try to see who's open, and Denny's like, I got this. And I think the beautiful part in that was the unfortunate aspect of the VAR goal, which it didn't look clear initially when you were watching it that was a handball or not, or penalty. And once it did go to VAR, you're thinking in a very tight game where both these sides are playing for the prize money, which I believe is $9.55 million for the teams that do qualify, and the opportunity that this presents for each club to be involved in this. So you saw how cagey it was and how tight it was. But when you looked at the entirety of the match, LAFC had more chances, they had more opportunities, and I think even though it did go to extra time, they thoroughly deserve this result and to advance into the Club World Cup. But for them to get that break and to score the 2 goals, and Bouanga being able to be the difference maker here, truly was an impressive performance in terms of displaying adversity, being down 1-0 and trying to find something out of the last 10 minutes of that match in an extra time.
Yeah, and LAFC, they're in good form going into this competition as well, which is usually a good sign, gives a team a good bit of confidence. And I don't know what you want to make of this, but since Steve Cherundolo announced that he would be leaving at the end of the season, well, LAFC, they are unbeaten in 8 games, only 3 wins, 5 draws in that stretch, so maybe nothing to get too excited about. But Jalil, you're high on LAFC to get out of their group. Why?
I wouldn't say high. I would say that I think
you're thinking pretty bold there.
I said they're poised to get out of their group.
Okay.
Like,
poised.
Hey,
I used the wrong word.
I think when you talk about, being unbeaten since April 10th, I believe it is, that does speak a lot of volumes. You talked about adversity in the game here with Club América. They've shown their ability to get themselves out of precarious situations, aka the early part of the MLS season. They did not look themselves. They were a shell of themselves, and it looked kind of weird. And then Steve Cherundolo announces that this is going to be his last season. It seemed like things were going to get worse for them, but they have gotten better. And again, for me, we were talking about Vancouver earlier, suffered the defeat in the CONCACAF champions. Are they going to go this way, or are they going to pick themselves up? For me, LAFC has shown us year after year after year, if they're in a competition or if they're in a playoff spot, they're going to be dangerous. And they typically show up in the bigger moments, and that's what we saw against Club América. That's why, for me, I don't see a situation where, even though you have Flamenco, you have Chelsea, I don't think that they can't get out of their group if two teams qualify.
That's a good point. I mean, this is a team that has been in a lot of these high pressure, high stakes situations, playing it in some big finals over the years in their history. They have the 3rd best odds to get out of the group, or to win the group, at plus 550. Chelsea, they are the heavy favorites at minus 200. Cupo, Master, what do you all think of this? Do you give LAFC a chance?
For their fans, I'd like to. I think that they have some of the most fun fan environment that we have in MLS. I think they're going to have to scrap it out. I think that they have enough guidance and veterans of the game and quality players to put up a really decent fight. I mean, I think Chelsea will be a battle, but why not?
Master?
I mean, the way Brazilians take this Club World Cup so seriously, even before in its previous iteration, that's the part to me that it's going to be hard to overcome. This is for them. This is their lifeline. This is their ability to show how much they matter in the world of club football. So I expect Flamengo to give their best. For Chelsea to be minus 200, I'm actually shocked. I feel like it should be much bigger than that. But LAFC, out of the MLS clubs involved, I think they have the best shot. As you mentioned, the atmosphere and the fan base.
Even compared to Inter Miami?
Yeah, I would.
Especially with where they're
at right now, defensively right now, I would absolutely put that. The only issue is that Inter Miami and Seattle, they have the advantages because they're going to be playing at home and they have their home bases. Where the unfortunate part of LAFC getting in the playoff now is their first match against Chelsea is in Atlanta. So that fan base is going to have to travel across country. I think it's in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. It's going to be very inconvenient for those fans to try and come out. And hopefully they do, because they are some of the best fans that we have in this country. And I love going to their games. But it's just a disadvantage that they have of being able to bring those teams, those fans along with them.
I think that's probably the biggest point with LAFC and the biggest thing that's working against them, right? And I think one of their next games after the game at Ben's is at Geodis Park in Nashville. How many people in Nashville are showing up to watch and support LAFC? I don't know. I know a lot of us Cali folk live in Nashville now, but I don't think enough to really make it feel like they're playing in the States. It'll definitely feel like they're playing an away match. So their adversity or the ability to get out of that will be tested here. But
there might be enough transplants with all the big houses you guys got that you can that y'all save the money that y'all were in LA.
I'm trying to get on your level.
Okay, Master's going to run down an Airbnb. Which team's going to be paying for your trip to Nashville? It seems like you've got clubs flying out all over the world. Wait, Jalil, I did want to get your thoughts on this because Landon Donovan was talking about the Club World Cup and how the MLS teams will fare. And he actually said that he gives the MLS teams an advantage because, number one, they're used to playing here in the summertime, which, as you know, it can get really hot. They're not going to have to deal with the jet lag that comes from traveling in from other countries, although, maybe the adaptation only really affects those early games in the group stage. What's your outlook on that? Do you think that playing it on, home soil in the U.S. is an advantage for the MLS teams? And if so, how much of an advantage is that?
Yeah, I do think it's an advantage. How much it's going to play out, we're going to see. Because, Club World Cup, MLS teams are going to be playing against clubs around the world that have roster spend that does not even compare. So that is way more of what we're talking about here. But how much are these stadiums going to be full? We don't know. There's so much, question about the Club World Cup as far as how much participation is there going to be. I was in Nashville hosting the event with President Infantino. We're talking about how exciting the prospect of Club World Cup is going to be in the U.S., but we don't even know what the stadiums are going to look like. And I think for me, the unknown of the novelty. The players will have the impetus to ball out because the prize money is crazy. You talk about a big house in Nashville. You
can buy Nashville.
You can buy a couple of those with that kind of money, right? Well, just a note before we go to break, when you look at past Club World Cups, a CONCACAF team has only made the final once. And of the 10 CONCACAF teams to play in the semis, all of those were from Mexico. So this isn't a competition that MLS teams have historically, made a lot of noise in. We'll see if that's any different this time around from either Inter Miami, LAFC, or
in this expanded field. The 4-team was very tough to break because you were facing like a Manchester City or a Real Madrid. But now with this group stage, all bets are off. Who knows? And that's the beauty of the group stage.